Right, a quick test. Please give me a thumbs up if everyone can hear me and see the presentation slides before we get started. Quaid, I'm currently in presentation view on PowerPoint. Can you let me know if the online audience can hear me and if they can see the presentation slides from your side, please?
Yes, buddy, there's a big thumbs up. I just want to check my audio. Everybody can hear me as well. So we're good to go, buddy. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Quaid. Great. Let's get started, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone. I trust everyone is well. Welcome to today's webinar titled Responsible Use of Pesticides, a specialist refresher course for trainers to train farm workers. This webinar is scheduled for 2 hours, provided there are no glitches, and will be presented by both Quaid Singh Jam, who is our compliance specialist, and myself. And for those of you who do not know me, I'm CropLife SA's stewardship specialist. CropLife SA members registered on the CPD system who are not yet certified as a CropLife SA responsible use trainer can thereafter complete the very easy assessment loaded in category 3 of the CPD system in order to get the certification. Those who are already certified in this regard do not have to repeat the assessment for the certification to remain valid. However, with that said, staying updated with new information remains crucial, so please listen carefully. Now, to ensure continuous flow of this webinar presentation, your mics have been muted, automatically muted. But with that said, for any of you who may have any questions throughout this webinar presentation, please type it into the question and answer box, and Quaid and myself will attend to those at the end of this webinar presentation. Now, I do apologize if we drop off for a minute or two given network issues. If that happens, please allow us a few minutes to get back online. With that said, let's hope everything runs smoothly. Fingers crossed, everyone. Okay, we are going to start by firstly focusing on pesticide labels and their importance. So without wasting any more time, let's get stuck into this presentation. When it comes to using pesticides safely and responsibly, the label of a pesticide product remains the only guidance and guarantee for this in terms of the Fertilizers, Farm Feeds, Agricultural Remedies and Stock Remedies Act, Act number 36 of 1947. On your screens, all of you will see a hypothetical pesticide label example compiled by our Advocacy and Communications Manager, Elriza Theron. What is key to note here is the phrase, before using this product, read the label carefully. Now, to be clear, all commercial pesticide labels will have a similar phrase printed on the front panel. It is common knowledge that many users of pesticides believe that what is printed on a pesticide label are recommendations. However, again, this could not be further from the truth. Everything printed on the label of a pesticide product are instructions on how to use the product effectively, but most importantly, responsibly and safely. To add further, the label of any pesticide product constitutes a legal document under Act number 36 of 1947. Where regulation number R1716 of 26 July 1991 forbids the use of a pesticide for any other purpose or in any other manner than what is instructed by its label. To be clear, when using any pesticide product, all label instructions must be followed without any deviation. Finally, to summarize the key message here, the importance of valid pesticide labels as approved by the registrar of Act number 36 of 1947 cannot be overstated when it comes to responsible use. Why? Because pesticide labels are the only legal documents that describe the purpose, nature, qualities, warnings, precautions, applications, and directions for use of a pesticide product. In simple terms, everyone, when a pesticide is used strictly according to label and provided spraying equipment is in good working order and has been calibrated for a particular crop pest situation, for example, users can be guaranteed that the product will be effective in controlling the target pest while mitigating potential risks to spray operators or the environment. Remember, before registration holders or manufacturers place a pesticide product on the local market, a copious amount of research is required in order to meet the requirements set out in Act number 36 of 1947, which involves considerable investment as well. It should now be clear to everyone that the instructions printed on labels have not been thumb-sucked, but based on sound scientific research, which satisfies the regulatory requirements as required by Act number 36 of 1947. Right, moving on. Let's continue with this hypothetical label example in order to understand what information must always be present on the front panel of any pesticide label. The product name must be clearly printed. There must be a statement to read and follow all label instructions. The type of pesticide must be clear, which notes the product group, whether herbicide, insecticide, fungicide, miticide, and so forth. The registration number must be printed with reference to Act number 36 of 1947. It is important that everyone notes here that all pesticide products will have an L registration number to distinguish from fertilizers, for example. There must be a declaration regarding the formulation type and use, whether EC, SC, WP, and so forth. The resistance group code or mode of action group of the product formulation must also be clearly printed. This is important when using against pests capable of developing resistance, where a pesticide with another mode of action group may be required to control such pests in a season. The active ingredient together with the quantity or concentration of it in the formulation needs to be present on all labels as well. The batch number and dates of manufacture also need to appear on all labels. Now, why is the batch number important? Well, for the simple reason to deal with any technical quality issues of the product formulation where it has not worked in the manner stated on the pesticide label when used by an end user, such as a farmer, for example. Remember here that any accusations in this regard by end users can only be made where all label instructions were strictly followed. Why? Because again, the registration holder or manufacturer of a pesticide product has no control over how their product is applied. When it comes to the date of manufacture, this is important to take note of because according to Act number 36 of 1947, a pesticide product will expire 2 years after the date of manufacture where there is no expiry date printed. According to Act 36, it is not mandatory for any registration holder or manufacturer to print an expiry date unless the product has an expiry date of less than 2 years. In short, where a pesticide product does not expire in less than 2 years, manufacturers and registration holders in terms of Act 36 are not obligated to print an expiry date on their labels and can therefore make their own decision on whether or not to do so. The full name, address, contact details, and trademark of the registration holder or manufacturer is required, which also includes the client service number. Importantly, a contactable poison information center or emergency number must be printed on pesticide labels in the event of any incidents such as exposure or spillage. The net volume mass of the product together with the UN number for transport purposes must also be communicated on the label of a pesticide product. Finally, as everyone should be aware by now, pesticide labels now have to follow the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling, better known as the GHS, and simply put, there are no longer color bands on pesticide product labels. This became law in September 2023, but we do know that based on expiry dates, some color band labels on products may still be present in farm pesticide stores. Come 2026, color bands will be a thing of the past. So the question now is, how are the safety instructions communicated on the new GHS format labels? Well, simply put, this is communicated via the GHS hazard pictogram, signal word, hazard statements, and precautionary statements, of which we will now cover in more detail. Firstly, let's start with the GHS pictograms, of which there are 9 such examples, as all of you can see on your screens. In simple English, a GHS pictogram is a graphical representation intended to immediately alert the user or handler to the hazards of a pesticide product that they may be exposed to. It is therefore important to know the meaning of each GHS pictogram that appears on a commercial pesticide product label. When it comes to the signal word, there are two words associated with the GHS, where one of these two words must always appear below the GHS pictogram, as all of you saw on the previous slide. Where the signal word danger appears, this means that the product presents severe hazards, whereas the signal word warning means that the product presents less severe hazards. Regarding the hazard statements, this must have a heading and appear on the right of the pictogram in order to describe the nature and severity of a chemical hazard. Like the hazard statements, the precautionary statements must also have a clear heading and be linked to the hazard statements. When it comes to precautionary statements, there are 4 types dealing with prevention, response, storage, and disposal. Again, in simple English, the purpose of the precautionary statements is to help to explain to users how to handle a pesticide product and which precautions to take to prevent adverse effects resulting from the hazards associated with a particular pesticide product. Other than that, everyone, all other instructions for use remain in the same format. Now, very important, the regulations for hazardous chemical agents of 2021, published under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, Act number 85 of 1993, makes it clear that all employees handling, mixing, and applying pesticides must receive training in order to comprehend the new GHS format labels, by particularly focusing on the 4 key elements of which I've just covered for all of you today. Right, let's soldier on to a burning subject, and myself and Quaid really pulled our hair out with this one, but here goes. And this is to do with restricted agricultural remedies based on the amended Act number 36 of 1947 regulations, published in August 2023. The simple question I have gotten from farmers during my discussions with them is, how does this work? Firstly, let's start by looking at the restriction statement notice that will be printed in capital letters with red font on the front panel of pesticide products classified as a restricted agricultural remedy. In simple terms, and according to the statement notice all of you see on your screens, a restricted agricultural remedy may only be sold to and used by a registered pest control operator, more commonly referred to as a PCO, or by someone under the supervision of a registered PCO, and only for those uses covered by the PCO scope of registration and only as directed on the product label. Now that sounds like a mouthful, so let me break it down to you guys a little bit further. Firstly, in order for an end user, such as a farmer or his or her employee, to purchase a restricted agricultural remedy from their supplier or dealer, proof of valid PCO registration for the intended purpose of the product in the form of a valid registration certificate, which includes the P number, must be provided by the farmer or his or her employee before the transaction can take place. With that said, a designated person not registered as a PCO may purchase such pesticides provided, and this is important everyone, so please listen carefully, provided the designated person has been accompanied by a suitably registered PCO on first purchase, where proof of a valid registration certificate with the P number must be captured on record by the supplier or dealer, as well as a signed letter provided by the registered PCO to the supplier or dealer, thereby giving consent to this designated person to purchase such pesticides on their behalf for the intended purpose going forward. Secondly, when it comes to the application of a restricted agricultural remedy on farms, for example, such pesticide products may only be applied by a suitably registered PCO for the intended use. Where farmers want to continue using their spray operators who are not suitably registered as PCOs for the intended use, then those spray operators must be under the direct supervision of a suitably registered PCO during the entire spray operation. Now, based on what I've just said, I'm sure many of you will have a lot more questions and will be requiring more detailed information on the subject. Given the scope of this webinar, we cannot cover all aspects, and therefore, please take advantage of our website, www.croplife.co.za, where all pertinent information is available under the tab Restricted Use Products, as I've highlighted for all of you on your screens. In addition, our regulatory team, which includes Rolian Lachransi and Anushka Gokul, have put together a comprehensive FAQ, which may also be accessed under restricted use products. Finally, before I move on, many of you may be wondering what the deal is with products identified as substances of concern, which remain on the market after undergoing the derogation process. Well, simply put, everyone, like restricted agricultural remedies, these products will also have a restriction statement notice printed in red font with capital letters on the label. However, and this is where all of you need to listen carefully again. However, the key thing to note here is that such products will have no PCO stipulations, meaning that it may still be sold to legitimate buyers for the intended purpose and may be applied by spray operators not registered as PCOs, where label instructions must still be strictly followed. In short, everyone, such products will continue to be sold and applied as has been done to date. I hope that's clear to everyone. Now, before I hand over to Quaid, who will cover the key principles when it comes to the safe storage of pesticide products within farm pesticide stores, based on what I've covered now, it should be clear to everyone that the risk presented by hazardous products can be managed or even totally avoided by reading and following all label instructions 100%. Quaid, over to you, buddy.
Thank you, Rich. Right. Everybody, we are looking at the safe storage of pesticides, and and this is on farm, and we are looking specifically on farm, and the Annex D of the SANS 10206 would be applicable for that. Unfortunately, this is copyrighted, and you need to obtain your own copy, and you can get it from the SABS website as per on this presentation. However, we also have our various materials or sources that you can get, which is on our CropLife website or on our webinar with the guidelines of the correct storage of pesticides, and also the various links that you guys can go and watch there. So, safe storage of pesticides on farms. So, buddy, you can go to the next slide for me. So, on site and looking for a suitable site to be in compliance with the various regulations. On site with an adequate security around the main farm operations. In other words, your perimeter must be well secured. And this could also be by means of fencing or whatever means of securement or containment that you want to be using. There must be a freely available of electricity and water supply, must be available. And then very importantly, it must be more than 500 meters away from any open water sources or boreholes. And this is natural streams, rivers, or even dry riverbeds, because at any given point in time, there might be some adverse weather, and that is why you need to be above the 50-year flood level as well. Because if you're within these areas, you are going to be adversely affected by these water or weather phenomena. Preferably standalone store, or if part of other stores, be separated by a firewall. So what does this mean? So you cannot have your seeds and your feeds, and then obviously, and I'm going to call this now chemicals or pesticides, within one area. If you have these different commodities, there must be a partition or a firewall built in to segregate all of these separately. And that is obviously for obvious reasons, and that is the cross contamination of any fumes or stuff that might settle onto your feeds. Right. Easy access for delivery vehicles and emergency service. So if there is, and so there is ease of access for emergency service, especially in time for evacuation or some rescuing that needs to take place. And then removal of all combustible vegetation within 50 meters from the store. So you don't want to have any, and I'm going to put this now in inverted commas, flammables or materials around, lying around the debris that could feed the fire if there should be a fire from the outside getting into your warehouse. Then far away, and this is about more than 500 meters from residential areas, and we are looking from schools, staff residents, hospitals, any retail or food manufacturing plants, entertainment and business premises. And the reason for that is obviously then also for any fire or safety hazard that may become and that is accompanied with your store. Because I mean, some of the products that you may be keeping in the store might be flammable as well. So therefore, all these necessary precautions need to take place. Vince. Okay, Resh, next. Resh, you there? Okay, thank you. Construction, if we look at the flooring, your floor needs to be a smooth surface concrete with no cracks, and it must be a solid floor. In other words, where your floor meets your wall, you need to have some sort of sealant in there to seal all the cracks so there's no seepage into the ground for contamination of either the water table or anything that is be present. And please, this won't be happen immediately, but over years, if there's a continuous spill or there's some sort of leakage, this may happen. Your walls need to be of brick and mortar or fireproof steel. Doors and security gates, preferably the lockable steel doors and gates. Please, I am not going to go into depth in this. This is just a generalized store because when we look at specifics for flammable spores, these specifications would change. So this is just for a general store that I am now basically talking on farm for pesticides. Windows, steel frames that cannot be opened, and this is a two-way thing, and this is to contain the fire in, and this is also to stop any or preventing anybody from entering as well. Window panes, and it's a 8 millimeter reinforcement glass, and the roof, steel trusses, steel sheetings and ventilations and skylight because you need to have some natural light in there because that would be compliance of the Arch Act. Guys, please, we are aware that some of the old farmhouses still have wooden trusses and stuff in. I know some of the farmers are looking at in having these remedied and removed, and some of them are doing their renovations and upgrades already. These sites, if you have these wooden sites, you need to get special permission from the fire chief to approve these or not, okay? Because some of these structures are so old that they cannot be modified or renovated, and actually the roofing structures need to be demolished and completely rebuilt. Right, forbidden aluminium or wood for frames. And then this is the big thing, the bonding walls. Guys, your warehouses needs to have bonding walls. They need to be a height of 200 millimeters high and all around the store. The same with your entrance. For your access of your forklift drivers, please, you can have your slopes on either sides of it, that they need to slope all the way down from your 200 millimeters, and they can slope gradual slopes in or out of the warehouse for ease of access on that. Your highest point needs to be 200 meters, and this could be in a length of 100 meters to give you that. I mean, yeah, of 100 mils to give, or 1 meter to give you that gradual slope for your forklifts to go over gradually. Okay, so it doesn't need to come to a peak, otherwise you'll be toppling over your forklift if it goes over there with a load. Adequate lighting, and we're looking at LED lights, and then HHP. Guys, these are now your highly hazardous pesticides or products. They must be in a lockable cage and a section marked danger. We will see this later on in the pictures there, but please, all your hazardous, highly hazardous products needs to be under lock and key. Alarm systems, preferably linked to an armed response unit, and this is for security purposes. Ventilation, extractor fans or whirly-burlies, we need to ensure that there is enough ventilation throughout the premises so there is not a buildup of any of these vapors inside the store. And then very important is the warning signs at each of the entrances of your warehouse. So you got a warehouse entrance from a building into your warehouse or from external, please. There needs to be adequate warning signs at each of the entrances as per the SANS code's requirements. Resh? Okay. On the outside, and these are the warning signs for your pesticide stores for access control. The first one that we look at there with the two yellow skulls and crossbone. It's the toxic substances, and it should say no unauthorized entry. And you need to have no entry without PPE. And that, please, guys, this is your prerogative. You can deny anybody entry into your premises if they do not have the necessary PPE in there. Because remember, the onus is upon you. You have your farm or your business name with your logo if you have. The manager or owner, or basically the responsible person for that site. If you have multiple sites or multiple farms or stores, you will have the responsible person's name or contact person for that particular store. The 24-hour poisoning emergency number that is there. And then you will have your SAP number and then your local. And please, I've just been in an inspection last week, and I need to please stress the following numbers: hospital, clinic, ambulance, or fire brigade. Please, guys, your local hospital, ambulance, and fire services. It's no use putting a number of emergency service that's 100 kilometers away or out of town, because you need those people immediately or around you. I know some of the areas do not have big hospitals or fire services and stuff, but your major for your local response teams would be sufficient for that. But please put your local numbers on there, please. It is really important. We might sound it to be silly, but that is what it is. I mean, you cannot live in Port Elizabeth and have somebody else's number in a town that is 100 kilometers away from you. The signboards, they need to be 1,000 millimeters by 750 millimeters with large font scripts. And this script is prescribed by SANS as well. It is a 75 millimeter. And yes, buddy, thank you for that. That this is a must for easy reading, and then two local languages as such. It is for the people to understand that. Store managers must, and I'm coming back to the point again, needs to maintain strict access with visitor registers, visitor cards, and regular security checks. Please, guys, you are in charge of your sites. You are responsible. Once you have accepted and allow somebody within your premises, you automatically become responsible for those people because you have given them consent to be on your site. Okay. Thanks, Suresh. Suresh, you there?
Yes, Quaid, I have skipped the slide.
Oh, okay, there it goes now. Sorry, we've got this. I've noticed we've got a slight delay. Stock management. Guys, please, and I need to stress this point. We need to segregate our stock or our products that we keep by the different types. Okay. We cannot haphazardly store our stock because some of these products are not compatible with each other. And they also, by themselves or if being incompatible, may pose some risk to each other as well. So please sort your stock, get uniformity, and identify each by their different types and store them in that order on a shelf or an aisle. Correct pesticide stock management also prevents mishaps and prevents product expiring before being used. Guys, you need to decide if you're going to be using FIFO or FIFO. First expiry, first out, or first in, first out. You can decide whichever is going to be much easier for you. Keep solids and liquids separately. Older stock always in the front and new stock back behind in the older stock. And that is why stock rotation, stock cycle counts, and your inspections of your stock is good practices to always to keep in mind. If you look at these pictures and you can see that lockable cage as we have previously have harped and noted on it that all of these products need to be kept under lock and key. That is just a typical example. It doesn't need to be like that. And unfortunately, the picture is a little bit too small, but the necessary signs are there on the gate. Oh, this, and please don't tell me the gate is open. It's only for illustration purposes, but it needs to be lock and key at all times. Right. Electronic records or printed records of stock must be kept to maintain control. And then, as I said, the FIFO principle must be applied or can be applied for your stock handling as such. Okay, Resh? Right. Items not allowed. I have explained the reason. No animal feeds may be kept within your chemical store or your pesticide store. And this is because they can absorb the fumes. And this is the same thing with your seeds. No seeds or animal feeds, please. No flammable or combustible liquids must be stored in the store, and the section must be separated by a firewall. Inorganic fertilizers, the same with that, because they also the same with your feeds. They do also absorb the fumes as that. Right. A pesticide stores only for pesticides in empty containers and for nothing else. Guys, please, the only other thing that we didn't put in here, and I said I'll just bring it up. We know this is a farm store. We know that some of the farmers have quad bikes and stuff that they use. Please, these are all fuel or gasoline driven. They are not allowed inside the store. They need to be kept in a separate place outside of the store, please. Okay. Thank you, buddy. Okay. Essential items for pesticide store. Dry chemical powder, fire extinguishers. The fire extinguishers and the number of that would be determined with your fire chief inspection, and that is why it's important to have your fire chief inspect your premises, because he will advise for you what are the numbers or quantity of fire equipment that would be suitable for your particular store. A hand wash basin, and this is for cleaning. First aid kit for general injuries. Your spill kits that you can keep in case there is some spill. Hand soap, and then a squeeze bottle for fresh water for eye rinsing. If you the farmer wants to and the farmer can afford, he can then alternate and put in an eye wash station as such if he needs be. But as we said, we are concentrating more for on-farm usage than anything else on this. Thanks, Haresh. Okay, we all know within our own warehouses and stuff, the way we will have incidents where there are spills, and we ask you to please each spill. You cannot have a blanket cover in response for each and every product because some of the products react differently to whatever mode or method. So some of them you just can't pour water or sawdust because there would be some adverse chemical reactions. We always ask you to please refer and look to your SDS, which is your safety data sheet. I had the question, somebody asked me the other day, what happened to the MSDS? Well, MSDS is now your SDS. It has just changed to your safety data sheet, okay? The first thing, please, for every spill or contamination, what takes place, wear special protective clothing for PPE, like for workers who prepares for spray mixing. In other words, these we have adequate protection for your whole face, eyes, for splashes and everything if you are going to be working to clean up. Do not allow any person inside the store while cleaning up the spill because you need adequate space around you. You don't need congestion or any cross contamination or exposure to anyone else that doesn't belong there. You can actually cordon off the area as well. From your spill kit that you have, sprinkle absorbent material liberally over the pesticide that is spilled. You've got Arabic gum, vercumulite, or absorbent sausages that can be used. Please, this is not the actual sausage. This is the long string that is within the spill kit. It's a long string filled with peat. And while allowing the pesticide to be absorbed, secure and seal any leaking or compromised containers. Says here it's a good practice to put shut containers into the polyurethane plastic bags to prevent further spillage for safeguarding. Seal the bags with duct tape. Once the pesticide is absorbed, sweep the absorbent material up and transfer to the large polyethylene plastic bag. Guys, your spill kits come in a wheelie bin. You may use your wheelie bin also to contain these products if you do not have a bag at hand. You can actually use your spill kit wheelie bin as well for this. It is contained and sealed for these purposes as well. Resh? Right. We said seal the bags with duct tape and transfer to the open net drum or wheelie bin for hazardous waste disposal. And then if there is any concerns and you need advice on hand, please call the emergency poison center number that is on there. That is a Griffin Poison Center for advice on decontamination. Once the spill site is decontaminated and all hazardous material is safeguarded, call the hazmat service provider to remove these materials for disposal. If you go to our CropLife website, under the obsolete stocks tab, all our numbers and stuff, or the response team's numbers are freely available there for you. It's also advisable for you to have one of these people in place so that you can have them as part of your response teams as well. If there's a major spill, please call the Griffin Poison Information Center, and the number is there. If you need special advice, or even if you don't need, please call for advice. Call the emergency number 082 446 8946 for advice on decontamination as well. Guys, it's rather if you're uncertain of something, before you go ahead and do something about it, please first find out before there is any adverse reaction or something to the situation. Just make double sure before just jumping straight into action. And if you're really not confident in doing that, report the matter immediately to get the necessary advice and guidance. Okay, right.
Great. Thank you, Quade. Thank you for that, buddy. I thought that was really good. Before we move on to the next section, there's just a few points from Quade's presentation that I'd just like to firstly reiterate. With regards to the storage webinar that we did last year during March 2024, that is available via the CropLife SA YouTube channel. And again, that covers storage at all levels, all the way from the commercial trade level to farms, as well as for those using it at a household and consumer level. So please refer to that webinar for in-depth information when it comes to the storage of pesticides. The other point is the behind lock and key of your highly hazardous pesticides. Many of you on farms will know and refer to it as the double locking within your farm pesticide store. Simply put, in current South African legislations, your highly hazardous pesticides are simply now your restricted agricultural remedies and or substances of concern. So any products that have that restriction notice or statement in capital letters with red font, any such products, ensure that they're stored behind lock and key in a lockable facility within your storage, within your pesticide store. So as Quade showed you with that image during his presentation. So that's also key to understand there. And then the other point is, again, to reiterate what Quade said, when it comes to major spills, and this can happen sometimes due to accidents or maybe due to a natural disaster or something like that. Always be sure to call that Poison Information Center number, the Griffin Poison Information Center number. Many of you here will know Gerard Verduren. He heads up the Griffin Poison Information Center, and he's made that number freely available. It's a 24-hour contact number should any such incidents occur. Remember, with the major spill, it's not as simple as just cleaning it up. There also is a regulatory process that needs to be followed where this has to be reported and an incident form has to be completed as per the regulations that come from your NEMOA, your National Environmental Management Waste Act. So the highs and lows there, you're just not focused on cleaning up, but you also have to complete an incident form and report that to the Directorate for Hazardous Waste Management within the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and the Environment. So you've got to clean it up, but you've also got to notify the authorities, and there's a process to be followed there. Again, like we said, should you encounter a major spill, call for advice to ensure that you follow the correct process when dealing with it. Again, Quade, thank you for that. Everyone, we will now move on to the safe handling, mixing, and application of pesticides. Quade, please let me know if I'm going, because on my side, the slides do change as soon as I hit the click of the button. But if it is sort of being delayed on your part, please let me know, Quade, or if it's being delayed on the part of the online audience, let me know, and then I'll just take a step back, all right? And then I'll roll back or rewind my talk, okay?
No problem.
With that said, let's get into this section of the webinar. Okay, so first and foremost, let's start with personal protective equipment, better known to all of us as PPE. In terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, Act number 85 of 1993, all employees handling and applying pesticides must be provided with the appropriate PPE by the employer. So there's no two ways about this, everyone. It is law. Now, while workers have a right to the appropriate PPE, workers also have the responsibility to ensure that the PPE is used to complete their tasks where pesticides are involved. During our farm worker training sessions in collaboration with Food for Mzansi, we have stressed the rights and responsibilities of farm workers with regard to PPE. We have also advised farmers to ensure they maintain signed records of PPE assigned to workers while communicating to workers that failure to use and wear PPE can lead to serious acute and chronic health risks and ultimately empowers the employer to follow the disciplinary code as prescribed in the basic conditions of employment. The highs and lows here is that PPE is non-negotiable and a shared responsibility between the employee and employer to manage risks. It remains important that both parties know their rights, but also execute their respective responsibilities. Now, it is no secret that the new GHS format labels have no PPE pictograms, unlike the old WHO color band labels. So how do you know what PPE to use? In simple terms, the level of self-protection when handling, mixing, or applying a particular pesticide product is now communicated through the precautionary statements. In general, for spray operators, this involves the use of a wide-brim cotton hat, cotton shirt or overall, cotton trousers, rubber boots, and gloves, safety eye goggles, and finally either a dust or respirator mask, depending on the severity of the hazards presented when considering acute and chronic toxicity. Now, while I have noted the required PPE in this context, some of you may ask, well, is there a best practice sequence for putting on and taking off PPE? The answer is yes. When it comes to the correct sequence of putting on PPE, spray operators must note the following. Firstly, put on the cotton shirt or overall, and then the cotton hat. Thereafter, put on the cotton pants, followed by the rubber boots, and ensure the pants are draped over the boots. So why must the pants be draped over the boots? Well, for a simple reason. If the pants are tucked into the boot and spray mixture by some chance gets on to the cotton trousers, that mixture can drip into the boot and come into contact with the skin. That is ultimately what the PPE is trying to present by acting as a barrier between the skin and the spray mixture. Next, put on the respirator or dust mask, followed by the safety goggles. Lastly, put on rubber gloves and again ensure that the sleeves of the cotton shirt or overall is draped over the gloves for the same reason as I explained with regards to the boots. But for example, if your spray operator is using a knapsack and the spray nozzle is not pointed upwards, it's pointed downwards, you stick to having the cotton shirt draped over the gloves. However, there may be instances now where the spray nozzle with regards to a knapsack sprayer, for example, may be faced upwards. Now, what do you do in that case? Well, simple logic will tell you then it makes sense to tuck in the cotton shirt into the gloves, the long sleeve cotton shirts into the gloves, because when the nozzle is pointed upwards, if any spray mixture gets onto the gloves, it will then drip onto the long sleeve cotton shirt. However, if it is tucked in while the nozzle is pointed upwards, then simply put, sorry, I made a mistake there, everyone. If the long sleeve shirt, cotton shirt is draped over the gloves, then I'm sure all of you can understand when that nozzle of the knapsack sprayer is pointed upwards, that when a spray mixture gets onto the gloves, it can then move through into the cotton shirt via that sort of gap that may be there and get into contact with the skin. So the simple thing and the simple rule of thumb is particularly when using knapsack sprayers, is that when the nozzle is pointed downwards, ensure that the long sleeve cotton shirt is draped over the gloves. However, when it is pointed upwards, ensure that the long sleeve cotton shirt is tucked into the gloves so that no spray mixture ever comes into contact with the skin. So please remember that rule, everyone. And now also importantly, during mixing, the sequence remains the same with the addition of the splash-proof apron, and this must be of the plastic type after the rubber gloves have been put on correctly. So why is the splash-proof apron required during the mixing purposes? Because remember, when you're spraying out a pesticide mixture onto your crop for a particular purpose, that's in a mixture form. Whereas when you're mixing the mixture together, it's still quite heavy. And what can happen there, if there's any splashing, that can get onto your PPE, onto your cotton shirts or your cotton trousers, and it can go through the PPE completely as well. And that's what the splash-proof plastic apron is there to avoid. And this is necessary and only necessary during the mixing process. Now, when it comes to the correct sequence of removing PPE after spray operations, it is important to note the following. First and foremost, wash gloves thoroughly with soap and running water before removing any PPE. Thereafter, remove the plastic apron if it was worn for mixing purposes. The cotton hat is then removed, followed by the respirator or dust mask and safety goggles. After that, remove the rubber boots, followed by the rubber gloves. Finally, the cotton pants are removed, followed by the cotton shirt or overall. Now, during our training sessions with farm workers, instead of simply reciting this to them from slides, we have taken the practical approach to demonstrate the entire procedure. This ensures interaction and understanding because I'm a firm believer in the fact that when people see for themselves, they absorb the knowledge better. Otherwise, in most cases, they may lose interest and doze off. And this comes from personal training experience as well. This is something we as an association have advised our certified responsible use trainers on so that they incorporate theory with practicality in order to improve the impact of their training. Now, all of you have heard me talk about a dust and respirator mask, but how does one know which mask to use when mixing or spraying a pesticide product? Well, a dust mask is acceptable when the warning signal word is present on the product label, accompanied by the necessary GHS pictograms. A respirator mask is required for highly toxic products, whether acute, which is represented by a skull and crossbone pictogram, or chronic, which is represented by a human with a 6-star point by the chest, and where these pictograms are accompanied by a danger signal word. The simple approach for me here would be to ensure a respirator mask is used when mixing or spraying or any pesticide product flagged as a restricted agricultural remedy and or substance of concern. That for me would be the simple approach. With that said, it also remains crucial to consult the precautionary statements for every pesticide utilized when it comes to PPE instructions, should there be any special instructions. Finally, please make use of our resources available, like this poster on our website, www.croplife.co.za, when it comes to PPE, because we do not want to see such examples, as you can see there. And please, everyone, that's not me, so don't mistake that for me, all right? I like to comply with what the law says, and more than that, it's my safety at risk, and I value my life, and I'm going to take care of my life. But not only that, can you imagine when this oak goes home, what happens to his family with all those pesticide residues that may have collected onto his clothes? So not only does he put his own health at risk, he also puts the lives of his family at risk. And this is also something that we have been communicating to farm workers during our training sessions with them as well. So with that said, I think everybody knows the story around PPE. It's been here for quite some time now when it comes to pesticides. It's a controversial subject, that's for sure. But with that said, it remains a vital source of protection to produce a barrier between yourself and the spray mixture when applying a particular pesticide product. Use the PPE, use it appropriately, maintain your PPE, take care of it, because ultimately it does not only protect your health, but it will also protect the health of your family and your children or your loved ones at home. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. And these are some points that you can bring into your talks as well when training farm workers, for example, or not only focus on their health, but focus on the health of their families as well. So give them the bigger picture, not just this is the PPE, this is why you must wear it. Provide reasons as to why we are saying this. Right, let's soldier on.
Rest, just give
Now,
me one. Rest, just hold
sure.
on. Guys, tell me, just give a thumbs up there. Some say that the slide is not changing. Everybody can see the mixing and application slide now. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, thanks, buddy.
Thanks for that, Quade. Thank you for that, buddy. Okay, so now when it comes to mixing and application, the simple rule is, and all of you will know this now, to follow all label instructions without any deviation whatsoever. With that said, also ask the following critical questions. Firstly, is the pesticide product that you are planning on using registered for the crop pest situation? In other words, everyone, is the product registered against the target pest, whether it be an insect, disease, weed, rodent, or mite species occurring on a particular crop? For example, if I want to control fall armyworm on maize, then I need to use a product registered for this purpose, and this information can be found under directions for use on the product label, where all application and dosage guidelines are stipulated. Where a pesticide product is not registered for the crop pest situation, that product may not be used. Now, to ensure safe and responsible use, ensure that all warnings are understood and all necessary precautions are taken as instructed on the product label. Ensure that you have the necessary adjuvants and buffers, but not only that, ensure the water is clean and of the correct hardness and pH so as not to compromise the integrity of the spray mixture. When it comes to the mixing sequence, always be sure to follow the label instructions where no mixing sequences appear, of which is now really unlikely, but where this may be, then consider following the CropLife SA best practices, of which will be communicated on the next slide. The dosage rate as stipulated on the product label under directions for use for the crop pest situation in terms of the type of application, whether land-based or air, must at all times be followed in order to measure the efficacy of the treatment. Further and importantly, the dosage rate must be used in the calibration calculations for the sprayer type to ensure the correct amount of pesticide is decanted into the spray tank. Given the above, please also remember that, well, given everything that I've said, please also remember that when planning any spray operation, it is also very critical and crucial to ensure that the correct weather conditions are met and never apply a pesticide product under adverse weather conditions because simply put, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting the labor. It just doesn't make sense to take that risk and say, okay, well, this weather is changing on the day of the application. I really need to spray my crop, but the weather is not good. Should you go in there and spray it? Well, what's going to happen if you spray it and the weather is not conducive? The product's not going to work. So you've wasted your money, you've wasted your diesel that you filled into the tractor, you wasted the labor's time. So yeah, just take these things into account when you want to take a risk with weather conditions. From my advice to all of you is please do not take that risk. Always refer to the product label when it comes to the weather conditions that are optimal for the spray mixture to be effective. Otherwise, spray in conducive spraying conditions. Do not spray in adverse weather conditions. Finally, also ensure that the necessary working measuring equipment in good condition, such as a scale, the measuring beaker and cylinder, and in some instances also a syringe may be used, is made available. And crucially, again, very crucially, everyone, always have the appropriate PPE as well. Please, that's very important. Okay, Quaid, has it changed on your side? Can I continue?
Yes, it has.
Okay, great. So before I cover the CropLife SA best practices mixing sequence, as I noted on the previous slide, always remember to decontaminate the spray tank after every use so as not to compromise the integrity of the mixture to be used in the next spray operation. This is very important because, again, like I said, if you spray in adverse weather conditions, you waste your time, you waste your money. If you use a product, if you use another pesticide product in your spray tank, where the tank hasn't been decontaminated, and that compromises the integrity of the current spray mixture that you're going to put onto your crops. Again, you waste your time and you waste your money because you won't achieve the levels of control you're looking for. So please, everyone, take these little things seriously as well. Right, now when it comes to the association's best practices mixing sequence, here is what all of you really need to know. Firstly, add 2/3 water in the spray tank. Next, add your buffers and safeness, and be sure to check the correct pH level is reached so as not to affect the efficacy of the pesticide. Now, everyone, this is important because many pesticides are sensitive to pH, and adjusting the pH with buffers can prevent degradation of the active ingredient, while safeness can help mitigate potential damage to crops from certain pesticides or water conditions. When it comes to the formulation type, dry formulations are generally added first, where the mixture is then agitated by stirring. Your EC, SC formulations follow with crop oils, where agitating the mixture is again required. Water-soluble formulations are then added, where this may be the case, followed by any wetting agents and without any agitating. Finally, everyone, the spray tank is then topped up to full volume with water, but be sure to avoid foaming, and to do this, you need to agitate slowly. Again, everyone, and to be crystal clear here, where mixing instructions are included on a pesticide product label, that takes precedence over this best practice guideline and must be strictly followed. Right, whenever working with pesticides, there is to be no eating, drinking, or smoking. Why? And I'm sure every one of you will know the answer to this, but I'm just going to put it out there again. Because these actions are a sure way of introducing pesticide residues into the body, since these activities will involve the use of contaminated hands. Therefore, should you require to use an ablution facility, remove PPE, wash your hands and face, and then use the toilet. The correct protocol would be to ensure that each spray operation is planned in a way so that adequate breaks are available in the day's work. And always remember to remove PPE, wash hands and face, and then eat, drink, or smoke. And if you smoke, also remember smoking puts toxins into your body, and that can also be very bad for you. Now, when it comes to spraying a pesticide, and I think I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because the statement here really is quite clear. Always ensure the area to be treated is free of any obstructions, which include spectators, animals, or bees that could possibly come in harm's way. So when you're going to treat a particular block of crops on your farm, ensure that there are no spectators, livestock, wildlife, pets, poultry, children, or bees present in the area when the pesticide is being applied. And also, with that said, please take note of the re-entry period as to when anyone can be allowed back into that treated area. That's also very important. But we do know that emergencies do arise where you may need to get into that crop that just has been treated. And should that need arise, ensure that whoever goes into that crop has the appropriate PPE on. They cannot just go into that crop. They cannot just go into a treated crop without any PPE. They must have the appropriate PPE on. Okay. With regard to personal decontamination after a day's work. So the procedure is very simple, as all of you will see on your screens. Firstly, wash hands and arms for 2 minutes with cold water and gentle soap. Then you wash your face, neck, and throat with cold water and gentle soap. And finally, for spray operators, they must take a cool shower after their day's work is done. Now, for me, it's important that everyone understands what we mean by cool water. Simply put, this is not cold water, everyone. Cool water is defined as water that's not hot. For example, it could be at room temperature or cooler, whereas cold water now is water that is below room temperature or below comfort levels. Please keep this in mind because it would be inhumane to expect spray operators to shower under cold water, particularly on cold days. The question some of you may have is, why is the use of cold and cool water recommended as compared to warm or hot water? Well, again, the reasoning is quite simple. I think most of us will know this from our own skin. We know that hot or warm water opens up pores and allows entry. So, in the case of any pesticide residues that may remain, hot or warm water can open up the skin pores and allow any remaining pesticide residues to enter the body, whereas cold and cool water ensures that the skin pores remain closed, which prevents any such entry. That is the simple reason there, everyone. Now, before I move on, finally remember, no PPE may be taken home. Again, by taking your PPE home that has not been washed or cleaned, you compromise not only your own safety, but that of your family as well. Your PPE must always be cleaned after a day's work and left at the pesticide store in a secure locker where each spray operator has been allocated one. That is how the procedure is meant to unfold. Okay, well, that's it for me for now, and I will again hand over to Quaid to cover post-handling and application safety principles. Quaid, back over to you, buddy. Whenever you're
Thank
ready, go for it.
you. Can switch the slide. Thank you, Harish. Right, guys. Recycling empty packages. So if you are not aware, CropLife South Africa has its own PRO system, which is our recycling initiative that we've got. And we also have our own recyclers and certified recyclers, which I will be sharing the relevant contact information and means how to get these going. So please, guys, for us on farm, it is very important never to reuse our empty containers or pesticide containers as such, and repurposing them for any other purpose that you may find suitable to use them. It is important, and farmers, please, and we would ask any crop advisors or any of our guests online to please ensure that this message get across, because we are not supposed to be using these pesticide containers for anything else other than the pesticide usage and thereafter properly disposed of. And by disposing it of, I'm not talking about burning them, because all of this, the burning and stuff, also it's another problem. It produces toxic fumes, and this also gets into the environment, and that is not what we intend them to be used. Never leave the container half full or empty, or bags unattended in the crop fields. I mean, these also sometimes get away, and it raises opportunities for the other not so legal elements as well, and seeing an opportunity for a quick buck of some of these materials. Please, as well, if your product is going to be reused, your label is tarnished, you cannot distinguish what is on that label, please immediately also add a new label onto that product so it can be identified as well. As per our CropLife procedure, please always triple rinse your empty containers and add your rinse water into your spray tank so it can be sprayed out. Please puncture your container to ensure that this cannot be reused again. And the recycle empty containers or bags, put it into your recycling cage or into your storeroom where you will have a designated area for this to be collected by your certified CropLife recycler. So in short, please ensure that all of your materials, your waste materials, are being recycled and rinsed and cleansed and kept separately and safely for the safe disposal and collection of our CropLife certified recyclers, please. As our logo says at the bottom, it is the right thing to do. And this is our initiative also to ensure that we have a cleaner environment and everlasting environment for the next and future generations to come as well. Buddy, next, please. There seems to be just a little delay when you push. I don't know if you pushed. Yeah, there we go. Our resources and certified recyclers. As I said, if you go onto our CropLife website, and you would go onto our certified and especially onto our website, you'll see there the top tab, you'll have the container management, the PRO members and the certified recyclers. Please, these recyclers, you will see there we've also added a beautiful map so that you can trace them to your specific locations and you can come in contact with any of your recyclers over there within your area. Contact them and they would actually come to you and they will actually give you a safe disposal once they remove these from the farm as well. So yes, buddy, you can move on. I don't know if it's only me, but I know there's a bit of a delay. There we go. Okay. As you decontaminate your PPE or you divest yourself of your spraying equipment or PPE. The same goes for to clean your spray equipment after use. Guys, this is very important. And please, you are not or never supposed to leave spray material in the sprayer overnight. With the agitation and with some of your SC products, these will settle down. Some of them, the suspended product would settle down, become powdery, and they will also resulting into clogging of your materials and stuff. Disperse of all your spray mixture before rinsing the spray 3 times with clean water. And once again, we're coming back to the triple rinse. And the triple rinse has been now been proven to ensure that you get most of your particles out and clean out of any container or your spray tank mixture, whatever, by doing and using the triple rinse method. If instructed by a label, use a commercial decontaminant, and this would differ then from product to product. That's why we will always say, and and what Race Buddy has also noted in for, please read the label, check your label. This is for post and pre-spraying or application. Check your label because the necessary guidelines is there. Please check all your pipes, nozzles, and valves and seals and fix and replace if necessary. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to see that the proper amount of dosage is applied at all times through the nozzle. Because if a nozzle is so should have been cone shaped and you've got a piece of debris in there and half of that spray nozzle is only functioning properly, you'll get half of your dosage rate and you will get an oversupply. It depends. Leave the sprayer cap off to allow the water to evaporate. In other words, that your container can dry out completely. Store the sprayer in its rightful place in the farm store and out of direct sunlight. Please, once again, it is important. And we always, and you'll see what we are doing without this entire process. It's always important to wear your PPE while cleaning the spray tank. It is always important to wear your PPE when you are busy doing these functions and handling the pesticides or mixtures as that. So please, PPE, it is important for us on farm. It is our frontline um, means of deterrent for us and to protect you. Okay, Resh? Buddy, did you push?
Yes, I have, Quaid. Yes, I have.
Ah, there it's going back now. Okay. So please, after you've done your decontamination and everything and cleaning of your equipment, always remove and take all your pesticides back to the store after the application. Please ensure that your containers and that is screw caps or tape or PP bags close them with duct tape. But please ensure that your caps are sealing properly, that the O-ring hasn't fallen out of the cap or perhaps that it's damaged. So make sure replace these and please keep them safely locked up and restore them to the original place. I said it again, make sure each container or bag is labeled. Once again, if the label is compromised, put a full color photocopied label into a Ziploc bag onto the container and put the container with the others of the same brand or batch in its rightful place. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we have our resource within CropLife and it's called Agri Intel. Please use that services. It's free for our members to use. If you're in need of any labeled or SDSs, go to Agri Intel, look at the trade name, punch in your trade name, and it will give you the necessary documents that would be there for you to use. So please make use of Agri Intel. If you're unsure of a product, and you only have an active ingredient, the same thing, you can do a search on Agri Intel and it will give it to you. Point number 3, complete all spray and stock records and and lock the store. It is important to update your stock records. You all know the audits that's coming on. Your auditors want to know what was sprayed, how do you spray it, and the time. So please update those records immediately after your spraying has been done. Okay? And then once again, I'm coming back again with the PPE and also what the rest said. Remember to self decontaminate the body and your PPE to be rightfully stored or placed into storage, whatever your instructions are on farm or procedures that is there on the farm. Okay. Thank you, Resh.
Great. Thank you, Quaid. Thank you for that again. Much appreciated, Quaid. Just for everyone, just to reiterate again the key points coming out from what Quaid has said. When it comes to your empty pesticide packaging, please refer to our website under container management to access our cleaning guidelines for all forms of pesticide packaging on the market at the farm level. Thereafter, follow these guidelines and clean your empty pesticide packaging accordingly. Thereafter, once this has been done according to our guidelines, take those empty pesticide packagings to one of our certified recyclers, of which you can find information on our website, as Quaid pointed out, to dispose of that empty pesticide packaging. Note that our recyclers, our certified recyclers across the country, will not accept any empty pesticide packaging that have not been cleaned according to our guidelines. That is very important for everyone to keep in mind. Finally, as Quaid pointed out, even when it comes to cleaning your spray tanks, please keep your PPE on. I think you guys saw the image of the gentleman over the spray tank where his skin, his arms was clearly exposed. That's not what we want to see. PPE must always remain on until the day's work is done. Once you've stopped working, as Quaid mentioned, once the pesticides have been placed back into storage and you go to decontaminate yourself, that's when PPE can be removed as a final procedure. All right, so just please remember that, everyone. Okay, so let's soldier on and cover potential exposure to pesticides and what to do in such an instance. All right, now while every precaution may be taken to mitigate the potential risks, accidents we all know do sometimes happen where a worker may be exposed to a pesticide and which could potentially lead to poisoning. This may be a matter of life and death, and therefore the correct protocol must be followed to ensure that the exposed worker survives without any permanent health effects. Where exposure of a pesticide product has occurred, whether through inhalation, eye contact, skin contact, or ingestion, then refer to Section 4 of the relevant safety data sheet, better known as your SDS, as Quade covered, and follow the guidelines. It is an occupational health and safety requirement to have a valid SDS for each pesticide product in storage on site. There's no two ways about that, everyone. It is law. Alternatively, particularly where panic may set in, and this is something that's likely to happen in such instances as well. But where this does set in, or alternatively, simply call the Poison Information Center number, the PIC emergency number, printed on the product label for expert advice on the next steps. And importantly, again, where medical treatment is then required, ensure that this is obtained from an occupational healthcare practitioner that is registered with the Health Professions Council of South Africa. Okay, now before we wrap up, I would like to communicate some simple training stats based on feedback we received from CropLife SA certified responsible use trainers for the year 2023 and 2024 to show you all our progress to date. For 2023, CropLife SA and our members, in particular our crop advisors and agents, trained a total of 5,700 individuals, which then increased to 7,204 individuals for 2024, representing a 26.4% increase. Independent trainers, which means certified trainers by us who have no membership with CropLife South Africa, trained 196 for the year 2023, which then increased to 376 for 2024, representing a 91.8% increase, although we can recognize that those numbers are fairly small as well. Overall, all CropLife SA responsible use trainers trained 5,896 individuals for 2023, which then increased to 7,580 individuals for 2024. And this represents a 28.6% increase where individuals trained were largely at the farm level. Now, it is important to note that what I've just communicated is not a full industry training perspective. Some of our member companies have also developed their own tools and more advanced training material in relation to their product portfolios, of which we encourage. Today, I've only focused on the CropLife SA Train the Trainer initiative. Finally, the association wishes to thank all CropLife SA certified responsible use trainers who have diligently submitted training statistics to date, as well as distributor management, of course, where records in many instances were consolidated prior to submission. We have no doubt that the current trajectory looks very promising, and if I may add, not only numbers, but also training impact will be looked at more closely going forward. I also encourage anyone of those registered on our CPD system to complete the assessment to get it certified as a CropLife SA responsible use trainer, where this may not be the case yet, and provide the association with training stats to better our collective efforts. And with that said, Quade and I have now wrapped up this webinar presentation. For any of you who may require more information, please feel free to contact us using our respective email addresses. Thank you all for being part of this webinar session today. We will now have a look under the question and answer box and respond to any questions that may have been posted there.
Okay, thank you, Arish. We had one question that has been answered by Alriza, and I'm just going to, for the purposes of our guests, read the question. It was, how long does the stewardship training certificate last before you have to do the training again? And the answer to that is basically, if you have completed this module and on the CPD platform, you do not need to repeat this process again, and specifically said not repeated again by all CPD participants. So Alriza, I thank you for that answer, and we hope this answers your question as well. Werner, are you satisfied with that answer? Then we've got a question here from Rian. Um, the question is, Buddy, I will answer, and you can also just chip in on the question. Is it mandatory for recyclers to remove paper bag containers? Um, we are saying yes because we have found out that some of these paper bag containers are not cleansed properly. And especially when it comes to the dust particles of the powder products, whatever was in there, you cannot clean or thoroughly rinse this paper bag. So, how are you going to wash this paper bag? So, we would ask them also then to please to have this then done by the put it in with the recycler so this can be then discarded properly with the necessary certified uh, what is the word I'm looking for now? Certified incinerators within Southern Africa. Um, CropLife South Africa is also currently undertaking its obsolete stock projects. So we are looking at on especially on farm to assist the farmers when we do remove any obsolete pesticides to include these packaging materials as well. So yes, it does become a requirement at the end of the day to have these disposed of properly. Harish?
Okay, Quaid, I see a question from Isabel. How should seed bags with treated seed be handled after use? Can they also be recycled? Isabel, that does not fall within the scope of the CropLife SAPRO. We only focus on your L registered products. With regards to seed bags, what you can do there is you can contact Gerard Verduren, who manages the CropLife SAPRO, but he's likely to refer you to Sansor for this purpose because it's not covered in our scope as well. So that's the highs and lows with that one.
Okay. When do I do training for spray operators? Okay, okay, that has been answered by Alriza as well. A yearly refresher, so yes, you can reach out to CropLife South Africa. But I mean, if you are going to be certified, you do it annually yourself. And what about the wash water used for cleaning spray equipment? Should the runoff be captured in a separate or separated drain? Buddy, I'll give that one to you. What do you do
Quaid,
about the wash water? Yeah.
with regards to the wash water, Quaid, there has to be a specific drain where this is captured into. It
Yeah.
cannot go into any drains or storm water drains or any drains that run into normal drinking water first per se. So where your spray area is, where you wash this, there has to be a separate drain where this water is captured.
Okay. Then I had a question that was posed to me, and the person wants to remain anonymous. And one of the question was, and please, I'm just going to pose a question to everybody. What do we do with all the asbestos found in all our old farm buildings? Well, it's under the asbestos regulation that is now currently in, and I think the phase out period has now already lapsed with this. But you need to declare all your asbestos with on the premises and either have this treated or replaced. Um, if you have it treated, then you need to have an asbestos register and you need to also notify the local authorities of how many square meterage or how many of your property is actually covered by the asbestos. So you need to also have a plan, and this is they called it a 10-year plan, where you need to indicate to your local authority, and if I say local authority, your municipal, home settlements, the Department of Environment, whoever is going to be doing this inspections, to update them and stating how long it will take for you to replace or treat all the asbestos within your premises or facility. Okay. And what should happen to the captured water, buddy?
Well, simply put, Quaid, the services of a licensed hazmat service provider would be required there for
Yeah,
final disposal.
yeah.
That's in terms of how the law works. Yeah. So to cut the long story short, it's quite a complicated process, Jacques. So you're welcome to speak to me offline as well on this, where I can give you all the regulatory information that you need. But the highs and lows, it cannot be just discarded into any drains, storm drains, the works. It has to be captured in a separate drain and ultimately disposed of through the services of a licensed hazmat service provider. That's the highs and lows of how that will work. With regards to Jenna, who's asking, is there a way for a person to take this assessment and get certified that is not part of the CPD program? Jenna, no, there is no way that this assessment will only be restricted to those who are on our CPD program. This is important for us to maintain quality control of all of our certified trainers. I think you would have seen that previously during 2023, it was open to independent trainers who weren't part of the CPD program. But since then, the fruits in terms of the returns from the numbers I presented based on trainings done by those independent trainers were not particularly positive. So that's one stumbling block there. The other stumbling block is how do we maintain quality control of the training information if you're not in the CPD program? Because as you know, um, this webinar is being updated on almost a yearly or 2 yearly basis when we have changes to any workings or any legislation that impacts the responsible use of pesticides. So highs and lows, Jenna, it's the assessment can only be accessed by those who are registered on our CPD program. Um,
Yeah. Are you going to answer Rian? Because I see Rian is asking us a trick question there.
Okay, so Rian, there are still a lot of farmers that need to do the PCO course. Will the department help in this regard or maybe give more time? And how will they handle them regarding that they do not have previous PCO experience, but years of pesticide use experience? Well, Rian, the highs and lows here and I'm going to answer your first question. We do understand the practicality issues with this. We do understand that
Mm,
many farmers are now only learning about this. During my presentations in series to farmers, it was the first time they heard about this last week the previous week when I presented it to them. The highs and lows, Rian, is that the department is going to be bombarded with 100,000 plus applications. This process, the wheel is still getting rolling, so it's not yet even rolling properly per se. And yes, Rian, there's going to have to be an interim measure in place until farms become compliant with the PCO stipulations, because currently a significant majority of them are not going to be compliant. Further to this, Rian, the important note here is the Act 15 of 1973, which is your Hazardous Substances Act. The declaration was published on the 4th of October, aligning to Act 36. And the key problem comes in here now with the poison register for your suppliers or dealers trading and selling these products. They're going to have to complete that poison register and have the proof on hand that they have been selling and trading these products as per the restriction notice or statement on the label. Now, this we have brought to the attention of the NDOH as well in terms of the practicality. It's not with that declaration. Let me firstly say there's a 6 months grace period, so it becomes law on the 4th of October, 2025 this year. As I mentioned, a significant proportion of farms will not be compliant by that stage. We cannot simply say it's a case of just having proof of submitting an application form to the registrar for approval, because we do know in some instances certain people who farms want to get registered may not have the relevant degrees or diplomas, and then they will have to undertake an accredited course to accredited training institution as stipulated on the registration application form. So highs and lows, we're going to have a significant majority of farms not registered. And in terms of the proof that they need to provide, this is also something myself and Quaid are pulling our hair out with. But
mm.
with that said, CropLife together with the Department of Health and the Office of Act 36 understand the issues here with regards to the timing. And we are working on a plan and an interim measure until a significant proportion of farms become compliant. We will communicate that to all our members once that information becomes available and once the two departments are in agreement with how they can go about this process in the interim. So, Rian, the highs and lows is you do make a valid point there. And yes, be assured that CropLife SA is following up with the necessary government departments to ensure that a plan is being put in place, because both accept that there will be practicality issues, particularly with regards to the Hazardous Substances Act declaration that was published on the 4th of April, 2025. So just please, Rian, remain updated with all of our communications, and we will also put this information onto our website, which can also be accessed. You do not have to be a CropLife member to access it. As you see with our restricted use product tab, anybody can click on that tab and get the information we need. We will communicate that information through our relevant channels before the 4th of October 2025, once a set plan has been agreed to on how to overcome this current regulatory burden. But with that said, Rian, regarding your other questions with PCO experience but years, remember, Rian, what the regulations say in the PCO regulations of 2011. It makes it clear you must have a degree or diploma in a relevant field. So if you're looking to be a PCO specializing in the field of agriculture, which is what farms will require, then you need to have a degree or diploma in either a crop protection course such as entomology, plant pathology, weed science, so forth. If you do not have your degree noting one of those as your majors or your diploma, then you can go look at your academic record. For example, if you've done a degree in agricultural management or something like that, and your academic record has one of these crop protection courses, as I noted on it, then that can also suffice. And with that said, Rian, with regards to a degree and diploma, you can thereafter, provided you have the relevant degree and diploma with the courses, can go ahead and start to complete the application form and provide an affidavit of your experience. Now, this is where it becomes tricky, because if you do not have the correct degree or diploma, Rian, then you're going to have to still do the accredited course through one of the accredited training institutions, which, like I said, you can find on the registration application form for a PCO. You're going to have to undergo 6 months practical training and thereafter submit your application form to the registrar's office for approval as a PCO, where the PCO under whose supervision you conducted your practical experience must also sign off on the registration form. So that's the highs and lows of it, Rian. So whether you've got a relevant degree or diploma, you can sort of take a shorter route. But if you don't have a relevant degree or diploma, then you've got to go the longer route. But again, Rian, refer to our website under our restricted use product tab. All those questions are answered under that tab as well, and a lot more of the questions we've been also asked. So please keep that in mind as well, Rian. I hope that satisfies your questions for now.
Yeah, buddy. I actually just wanted to refer Rian to that because there's a lot of information over there, and we cannot simply just give you a summarized answer on that. And that is why I say it's quite a trick question. So I would suggest you go to that website and read through all that material. It is quite a lengthy read, but yeah, most of the answers are in there. Okay, there was a question from Calvin, but I see Alreza has answered that. Can I qualify for your CPD once I have my PCO number? And that, yeah, certainly if you are employed by a CropLife SA member company. Okay, are there any questions from anyone else? Buddy, I haven't received any new questions. I'm just double checking. If I perhaps have omitted anything, I have not. I don't know if you have any new questions there with you.
Quaid, yeah, I can't see any new questions, Quaid. So I think, Quaid, we can go ahead and then wrap up the webinar, Quaid. As mentioned, to those who are registered on our CPD system, you can access the assessment via category 3. With that said, everyone, should any of you have any further queries that you'd like to put to either myself or Quade, please feel free to email us those queries and we will get back to you as soon as we can. But for now, that's all Quade and I have to say. We wish all of you a great day further. Thank you for listening diligently and for following this webinar
Mm,
presentation. We are most grateful for that. And
correct.
with that said, from myself and Quade, cheers everyone and have a wonderful day further.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, because your attendance makes these webinars successful. Thank you. We appreciate you. Yeah.